Well, hello, I'm here with Doug to talk about BadBox and also a new Flipper Zero attack against cars that I just learned about. And it is Friday, July 25, 2025. So let me start with those topics I mentioned. I thought when I first prepared this, I thought BadBox was the most interesting story. Um, this is the largest botnet in the world, apparently. There was one that was taken down last year that had 19 million box devices, but that's been taken down. This one has over 10 million devices. But the thing that struck me as most interesting about it is these are smart TVs mostly, and they were infected at the factory. They were
What?
came with malware pre-installed on them. It's not that the user made some kind of mistake and added the malware. And I had a discussion with this on Pulse Security Weekly, and I said, I wonder if the end user will notice anything. And it's not entirely clear what they do with this, except run DDoS attacks, which I don't think an end user would notice or care about. Uh, it, I'm not sure what you steal off a smart TV. Seems like you could at least steal some authentication information for Netflix or something. Maybe you could find a credit card number or something. But it's not clear exactly what harm it does. But anyway, it's a thing to know about. If you buy Android-based TVs, probably the cheap ones, that do not have the full Google protection on them because they don't meet Google standards. If your Android device has to meet certain standards, or you're not allowed to put Google apps like Google Play and Google on it. For example, if you sell it with USB debugging turned on, or if it's jailbroken, then Google will not allow you to do that. You can still use the open source Android, which is what these do. And in my experience, these are the cheaper devices. And the cheaper devices presumably have motherboards that came from China. And in China, they're installing this malware. So anyway, Google sued them and named a bunch of Chinese-based people as the targets of the lawsuit. So it's a thing to know about. Um, this means, I think, 10 million people have infected smart TVs and they probably don't know it. And it's not clear to me that they will ever notice any harm coming from that. Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm. Speculation on what they're going to do with this, huh?
Yeah, there was a famous botnet like 10 years ago on Windows machines that had like 9 versions and infected almost all the Windows XP machines, a ton of Windows XP machines, and they never actually did anything bad with it. There kept be a warning every few months. A new version of this malware is coming out. You should freak out, but they never got around to using it for anything evil, and the antivirus people eventually edited the definitions, and that was the end of it. I think the underground criminal ecosystem has the same kind of inefficiency as the above ground system. There's people who make malware and people who exploit boxes, and then they rent it to other people to do crime, and apparently they couldn't make a good deal. So even though they had an asset, they were unable to successfully market it before it became useless.
Right, right.
So that
Huh.
kind of thing happens.
Yeah, no, it does. It does.
Yeah, I remember when I was on the cutting edge of attacks because I was really teaching hacking and stuff. I was always disappointed because you'd find a new vulnerability, you find a new attack, and then nobody uses it. You'd go tell it,
Right.
you have to patch this right
Yeah.
away. And it turned out the bad guys never used it. The bad guys just used the same old thing that's been working for 10 years because why bother doing the new fancy thing when they
Yeah.
just use
Right.
social engineering and ask you for your password or something and, all those. And somebody did a study and found that people focus on patching, but in fact, um, the top 10 attacks are all things that were patched like more than 5 years ago.
You're right. Right. Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
it's more
Huh.
fashionable to talk about the sexy new thing, but that's probably not the most important thing to think about. In fact, a ransomware consultant I talked to said every time he helps a company that's been infected by ransomware, it was always a security 101 flaw that let them in, like a default password, an open share, something incredibly simple.
Right.
Most effective thing you can
Right.
do to protect yourself is to just look at the top 10 flaws and fix them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I mentioned this new one I just saw, which is amazing. Flipper Zero, the only thing you can really do with the Flipper Zero, in my experience, against a car is you can open the charging port on a Tesla because that's just a fixed radio signal that's the same on every car and never changes. And the Flipper Zero normally can just commit a replay attack. But apparently there is a new piece of software you can add to your Flipper Zero that can defeat the current protection, which is the rolling code algorithm. And this is surprising. It seems like a cryptographic flaw. This article on SAN.com does not go into technical details, But they say the new hack exploits the rolling code algorithm to calculate valid key fob commands based on a single intercepted signal, which means you can not only uh, emulate a key fob and take control of a car, you can also lock out the real key fob. And they say this vehicles vulnerable to this include Chrysler, Dodge, Fiat, Ford, Hyundai, Jeep, Kia, Mitsubishi, and Subaru. So this really sounds important, and I've got a Flipper Zero. I haven't done much with it. This sounds like they've defeated the algorithm used. I guess they've broken the pseudo random number generator or something. I mean, they must have done something really stupid for this to work.
Yeah, well, we've seen that before.
Well, yeah, I mean, for a while, they just had a fixed code like a garage door opener. And then
Yeah.
people figured out that's not good enough. So they switched to some kind of rolling code where, of course, it has a pseudo random series of codes and your fob must be calculating it too. So it has to be just some kind of algorithm. Kind of think of it, it's kind of obvious. All you'd have to do is take the firmware off the fob and find out what the algorithm is. It's got to be pseudo random. Yeah, anyway, I don't know what they did, but now that I'm thinking about it, it's probably no harder than generating Microsoft product keys or any other supposedly pseudo random thing. If you can get the code that does it, you can reproduce that code. And I think anything
Yeah.
in the key fob, you can just using hardware hacking, you can suck the software off the key fob and find it, which is probably what happened.
So there's no PKI, there's no Diffie-Hellman key exchange, anything like that.
Well, no, I don't think so. I don't think there can be because you can't assume you can get to the internet or anything. I mean, it's just a two device system, the key fob in the car, and it's a rolling code. So yeah, what they could do is they could, that would be nice if they used a random number generator at both sides and Diffie-Hellman. I think this wouldn't work, but apparently that's not what they did. Which, by the way, I think the same thing is true of like app-based one-time passwords, like the those RSA tokens and the software you put on your phone. It's not doing a Diffie-Hellman exchange, although that would be pretty cool. Instead, it's
Yeah.
just generating pseudo-random numbers from a seed, and the server is also generating pseudo-random numbers from the same seed, so they know what's coming up. I think that's how they all work, and I can see how that's fundamentally unwise.
I thought, remember way back when this was an issue with garage door openers.
I thought it still was. I don't know if they ever changed that.
It's interesting. I haven't heard anybody talk about using the Flipper Zero with garage door openers.
In San Francisco during the pandemic, there were a bunch of people breaking into garage doors, but I think they were just like prying them open with a crowbar or something. I don't think they were doing it
Yeah,
fancy.
yeah, yeah. But originally, the garage door openers you would set to one like private code.
Right. There's like dip switches in there. You can just
Yeah,
put in a
yeah,
pattern of ones and zeros or something, which is, I think that's the way cars were at one time. And then they found out that's not good enough because you can pick up the signal and replay it. So they switched to some rolling system where the code changes, but apparently not using overly complex system to do that. Just a pseudo-random
yeah,
or bit flipping pattern is probably one, like a a fractal or something. There's a bunch of
yeah.
pseudo-random algorithms.
So I thought, but now I'm realizing there's a flaw with this. I thought it's current garage door openers use a one-time code, but that can't. And so if the garage door button is pressed, the garage door opener opens, and it sends a new code. What the next code will be to the button, but it can't do that because if you have multiple buttons, the buttons are now out of sync.
Yeah, I think it's just a fixed code is my feeling, but I don't know. Maybe they've done something a
No,
little better.
no, they have a rolling code unless
It ought
there's
to
a
be, yeah,
limit.
yeah.
Unless there's a limit, maybe each garage door opener can have, say, 10 buttons associated with it. But that means there are 10 different codes.
It's a good question, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Now that you mention it, Diffie-Hellman would probably be the smartest solution, but I don't think anybody's using it.
Yeah,
Actually, no,
but the problem is,
wait. No, Diffie-Hellman wouldn't authenticate. If how would work anywhere. I mean, Diffie-Hellman, you need more than that. You need a shared secret because otherwise some other opener would work if it's just sent over the wire. Diffie-Hellman uses ephemeral keys. No, it's got to be a shared secret. And then you could just suck the secret off the garage door opener. So the logical thing would be to have a key fob that has something like a trusted platform module in it. You have to have a secret in there and it has to be hidden in a way that it's hard to extract.
Well, when you set up this is kind of interesting. When you set up a garage door opener, you have to pair it.
Right.
Similar with what you do with Bluetooth. You press a
Right.
button.
Right. So in
Yeah,
case it sends the secret of short range, just like when you have router with WPS, you can press a button on the router,
exactly.
but that's the only time it actually sends the secret. And after that, the secret's on the device.
Right.
And that makes sense, but cars don't work that way. Cars seem to be preset at the factory.
Yeah, but then what happens when you get a new key fob? There, there's a way of pairing that.
Yeah, I assume at the factory they paired it. Remember, you get the fob. When I read a car, you get the fob with the key, and they really will charge you a couple $100 if you lose it because it's not simple to make a new one.
Well, it is, but
Yeah.
I
Well, there
mean,
must be some way to redo the pairing.
yeah, but the pairing should be pretty easy. It's just like pairing a Bluetooth phone to your car.
It's interesting. Anyway, maybe more
Yeah.
details will come out, but in the time being, I think it means that those cars are at risk.
Yeah, Sam, I'm curious. Why aren't we doing garage door openers with Flipper?
Yeah, now that you mention it, it seems like they would work fine. And I think you
Yeah.
could use them to do turn off TVs too. Remember that guy made a TV be gone.
Oh, I have one of those.
Yeah, but I think you can do that with a flipper too, because I think that's just a constant pattern of signal without any randomness or anything.
Well, oh, yeah. Well, that's infrared,
Yeah,
number
that's true.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think
And
it's also not cryptographically secure.
no, and it can't be. Well, I guess it could be, but it can't be because you can use a universal remote and
Yeah,
it's just a pattern.
yeah. Well, that makes
I,
sense because you could just walk up and push the button too. I mean, infrared is short range.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So, but with TVs, each manufacturer, there's some variants.
yeah,
There's some standards, but not exactly.
yeah. Anyway,
So,
those are what I thought were the biggest stories. What have you got?
so here's a good one. You need a new phone?
I kind of do actually, but go ahead.
Well, have you considered, let's see, the Galaxy Z Fold 7?
No, I read about it, but I'm not interested in switching to Android.
Yeah, any idea what the cost is?
I don't know. I didn't pay that much attention. I would assume a few $100.
Uh, well, keep going.
Oh, it's thousands of bucks? Because all I heard years ago is they said like in South Korea they have these awesome phones, but they don't even bring them to America because nobody in America will pay like $2,000 or $3,000 for a phone.
Yep, you're in the
And, and in
ballpark.
South Korea they have super advanced phones because people are willing to pay a lot more for them. This is what I heard maybe 8 years ago.
Yeah, so the Galaxy Z Fold 7 phone is over $2,000.
I'm skeptical of the Fold, and I've heard early versions of it they had to cancel because how many times can you fold it before the screen breaks? Hopefully they've solved that.
Yeah, well, remember what other large company tried to do a fold phone?
I don't
Was
remember.
Microsoft.
Did they? Yeah. I think
Yeah.
they're making phones.
But since we're on this topic, guess who's thinking about creating a folding phone?
I think I've heard Apple wants to add this feature to their iPhone.
Yeah, so not the rumor is not next year, but following year, possibly.
Well, Apple's whole thing is not to be an early adopter, but to wait until it really works. So if I was them, I would let Android ship a bunch of phones that are just going to break and suffer through all that and wait for the technology to improve.
Yeah. The
And
the
how
one
can you
thing
actually fold an LCD screen without it wearing out and breaking? How can that work? I'm very skeptical.
I, I
I'll
don't
be,
know.
I'll
I'm
be
not an
glad.
electrical engineer.
I'll be happy to let a bunch of other people buy it and read what happens to them.
Yeah. So I have heard though the camera in the Galaxy Z Fold, or should we say the over $2,000 phone, is incredible.
They keep making the camera better and better. As far as I'm concerned, it reached the point of no additional value several generations ago because I'm just going to put the picture on the web. So really anything more than like 1,000 pixels is wasted on me. I'm always scaling down the picture anyway.
Yeah, yeah, yep, yep. Yep.
I remember there's
But
like
yeah,
movies and billboards they put on an iPhone. I mean, it seems to be as good as like a professional camera, and I don't know why most people want that or need that.
you know where the camera, at least on the iPhone, I can't speak for others, has turned out to be incredibly useful for
I don't
me.
know. I don't know.
So I've been in locations where, like in a store, where they have something behind the counter, like
Oh
on a
yeah,
wall,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I can't see the price tag,
yeah. I
but
use
I
it to
can,
read the little tiny letters on the back of a device for the serial number or the router
yeah,
login.
I've done
Yeah,
that a number of times. But here's the other one. You know, behind the counter, they have something on the wall. I can't see the price tag.
yeah,
And the camera is powerful enough that I can
yeah,
zoom in and read the price tag
yeah,
from
yeah.
8 feet away.
Yeah, I've done that when I'm taking a walk in nature. I want to take a picture of a bird. I can take a picture of a bird in a tree and zoom in and see the bird.
It's pretty incredible, isn't it?
It is. I appreciate it, but
The other one, the one feature that I've needed it several times that I don't think any of the phones have is a front-facing camera with, they have front-facing cameras, but they don't have the light.
oh, well, yeah, I think your light has to be bigger than a single point or it will look funny. People get ring lights and stuff to do podcasts. I think fundamentally, if they turned on like the little tiny LED bright light to illuminate you, it wouldn't look very good. They do have
Yeah,
flex mode. Yeah.
but Sam, here's my use case
Yeah.
is sometimes you need to look up under something
Right.
like you're trying to think what would be an example.
Oh,
Like
inside
you,
cars. So, for example, you have to see what's
yeah,
in the
like
car.
inside a car,
Yeah.
right? You need to be able to see the screen so that you can look up, but there's no light with it.
Well, yeah, I guess you can turn on the light. Anyway, yeah, there is a light.
Well, if you turn the light over, then you can't see the screen. You need to use it as a mirror.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, well, you could probably write an app for that or something. Yeah.
But you need the light.
Well, yeah, yeah. All right.
So you know the idea is you're looking behind a wall or you're looking behind something. You can't put your head in there. You can
Yeah.
put the phone in, and it acts as a mirror with the screen.
I just went to the dentist and got my teeth cleaned, and I was just thinking, I've tried to do things in a mirror. It's really hard. They get good at it, but it's real hard to know. You keep moving the wrong way. It's a skill to like actually do anything in a mirror.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I've learned to do things in a
Yeah,
mirror. I've
yeah,
had to. It takes some practice,
yeah,
but it's not that difficult.
yeah. It's probably like backing up a tractor trailer. Those guys do.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
nothing when you try it the first time and you get all screwed up.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right, right.
All
All
right.
right, what story you got for us
Well,
next?
I got some AI ones. So apparently, here's one. I didn't know this. Like I said, I was surprised a week or two ago to find out the number one use of AIs is therapy/companionship. But another big one is to act as your doctor. And apparently, until recently, if you asked it like, what drug should I take or something, it would say, I'm warning you, I'm not a doctor. You need to talk to a real doctor. And they say this year they've all quit warning you. They no longer complain. They'll just give you unverified medical advice with virtually no disclaimers. Less than 1% of outputs include a disclaimer, and it used to be 26% in 2022. So that's interesting. I guess some lawyer must have decided they're not actually legally liable for this because people are getting medical advice from AIs.
You know, Sam, this is interesting because that's a lawsuit.
That's what I would think. I mean,
No, hold
yeah.
on. That's a lawsuit that was brought against 23andMe and the other DNA testing companies.
Well, yeah, I guess they have a health prediction thing, and yeah.
Yeah, but hmm,
And I read the experts when I read about those things. Experts said, this is as reliable as a tarot reading. Don't believe a word it says. And as far
right.
as I could tell, that's true. I had a friend that got it, and it told him he was like, 40% Indian. And then like a year later, they sent, oh, here's an update. You're like 30% Chinese instead or something. Apparently, even that is just random.
You mean the DNA testing?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Apparently, the results don't mean anything at all. They don't really understand how to interpret them well enough to get any real value out of it.
Yeah, you know, about 20 years ago, there was a company that came out and for $1,000 would do a body scan. which was a total CAT scan. Do you remember that?
Those are still around. I see people talking about how they're wonderful and they'll detect like early stages of diseases or something. That's the idea.
Yeah, that's the idea. I thought that company went bankrupt.
Maybe I saw an article about a year ago saying people are doing it. It's the new cool thing in Silicon Valley, sort of like getting the blood of a young person. It's a new. There's all these new, fancy, crazy medical treatments that hit
Yeah.
in Silicon Valley. Peter Thiel is apparently the guy that gets the blood of young people injected into him, like a vampire. But they want to
Okay.
live. They want to live forever. They read a lot of science fiction. They think they could have their body turned into a robot body. They think they're going to have AI super intelligence next year. They live in a fantasy world down there
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
tech is the answer to everything. I remember that was the great thing about one of the Iron Man movies. They had a clip of his father in like 1950s doing like a black and white infomercial, and he said, "Technology is the answer to every problem," slapping the hood of like his Ford car, saying, that's the way it was in 1950. We'll have atomics and rocket engines and radio, and pretty soon we'll solve every problem.
Interesting.
And that's the way it is. Now it's AI. AI in Silicon Valley is going to solve every problem. It'll end up. I'm consulting for a company and they want to fire half of the staff and replace them with AI. And I'm like, dude, that's not going to work.
Hold on. Hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I said, how about you try a small pilot program first and find out what happens?
Well, did I see that Microsoft's doing another layoff in 2025?
They laid off 9,000. And in fact, I saw the CEO of Microsoft is sort of apologizing, saying, I feel really bad about laying off these people. But it wasn't that many. They have like one or 200,000 people, and they laid off like 9,000. So it's not that many. It's like 2 or 3% of their staff they laid off.
Well, I'm just looking right now. It's a total of 15,000 for 2025.
Yeah, but even so, it's not even 10% of their staff.
Right, right. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's
Yeah.
reasonable. You could lay off 10% of your staff and reasonably expect to keep going, but laying off half of your staff is like just
Right, right.
might as
Yeah.
well just
Yeah.
close up shop and quit. I think if you're going to do something like that.
Right.
It reminds me of being a teacher grading students. Grading is not really a measure of the worth of a student, not that much at all. And do these guys really believe that performance reviews can figure out which half of these people are expendable? I highly doubt that.
No, it's all political.
There is some truth, right? I think performance, just like a college grade, I think it may have some truth in it. Like the F students are not as good as the A students, but there probably is no real difference between the A students and the B students in practice and things like that.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree with
Yeah.
that.
Anyway, so uh, Kennedy has a new drug approval process. He's done this. He's laid off the people that approve drugs and he's replacing it with AI and saying the AI will decide whether a drug is safe and this will greatly accelerate the process. And I bet it will. You could also just not bother testing them at all. That would accelerate the process and probably lead to the same result. But that's ELSA is the FDA's AI tool, and it's spitting out fake studies and lying about the studies that it reports, just like all the other AIs. So that's charming. And then the last one I thought was pretty good in AI is Amazon has a popular AI coding assistant called Q, which I haven't used, but apparently it's another one of these coding systems. And so what this guy did was he added commands that told the software to wipe users' computers, and then Amazon included the unauthorized update in a public release of the assistant. And what he said was he just went on GitHub, where the code is, and just submitted a pull request, and they just approved him to modify the code with a random account that had nothing to do with Amazon. So that's amazing. I wouldn't think anybody would do that. I mean, anybody can report an issue, but you wouldn't let just anybody change the code and then distribute the code. Apparently, Amazon did that, and that's pretty amazing. Now, I think the code was like proof of concept. It didn't really work, but it said like there are all previous instructions in format C or something like that.
Yeah, right, right,
Yeah, but it
right.
showed in principle, obviously, Amazon has a poor supply chain process on this product. Anyway,
All right.
that reminds me of like Scattered Spider, the most feared ransomware operators. they often get in with tricks like that. They just call the help desk and ask for a password and get in.
Yeah, yeah,
They apparently do have some technical abilities, but they often don't need to use them. You can often get in with a very simple social engineering attack.
yeah. Right, right, right.
Anyway, you got one?
Yeah, I got another one for you. This one kind of caught me off guard. I wasn't aware of this, but if you're a Microsoft Office user, there's a product that I like that's called OneNote that I've been using for years.
Yep.
And the original OneNote got divided, like most of Microsoft did, to, I think they call it, now I can't remember the title, but there's OneNote for Windows 10 that was installed on every Windows computer,
Oh.
Windows 10 computer.
Oh.
And there's OneNote, I believe, for Windows 11 that was installed on every Windows 11 computer.
And that must have AI in it.
Of course, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Now, I can't remember what the heck did Microsoft call those apps? There was a name that they called them.
The last I heard it was part of Office, but I guess not anymore.
No, no, there's the shoot, the Windows.
Accessories?
There's like the web app versus the app.
Oh, yeah, there's one in the cloud that you just log in through a browser. I've heard of this, and therefore you can use it on Linux or anything because it doesn't really rely on the local software. I thought that would actually make it useful because I never cared about this because I'm not always using Windows. But if there's a cloud version, then it might be more useful.
Um, Now I gotta know what Microsoft was trying to do was transfer the code base into another operating system that was like standardized for apps,
Yeah,
not a development system for apps.
yeah,
Um, and now the word's escaping me.
yeah. I would think Java would be the logical code.
No, it's not Java,
Maybe
but
.NET knowing Microsoft.
no, no. What do they call it? I just looked at this the other day,
I know there are
and
these web-based coding systems. There's one called Electron, I think. I've never understood them very well.
yeah, I'm not. I'll have to look
Yeah,
this up.
yeah,
I can't find this right away. But
yeah.
one was like a shoot like a pseudo cloud version for Windows 10, 11 that would run on your computer.
Yeah, I
And
don't
and
know.
so what's happened is if you get the Windows Suite, you get another version of OneNote. And that was originally called OneNote. It started as, I don't know, 2008 and then 2012, 2016. Now they've gotten rid of that naming and they just call it OneNote. So if you look on your Windows computer and it's 10 or 11, you'll have OneNote for Windows 10 or 11, and you'll also have OneNote, or you can download OneNote. Confusing as all heck,
Yeah.
right?
The way Microsoft's always been this way. I remember when they had three different
Yeah.
email clients, all completely different at the same time.
Right, right. And they also had photo imaging software, three different clients.
Yeah,
So, anyway, long story short, all of them interact with each other,
yeah.
but the menus are slightly different. And in October, Microsoft is retiring support for Windows, OneNote for Windows 10
Well,
and
yeah,
Windows 11.
yeah.
It'll still function, but this is kind of evil. They're not going to do any support for it, but they're going to slow down the syncing process.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was wondering about syncing because you don't want your stuff to be on just one machine anymore. Putting it in the cloud is definitely where you want it because
Right,
you don't want to lose
right.
it when your machine fails. Yeah,
So now what you need to do is you need to use the OneNote app
yeah,
or the OneNote, not OneNote for Windows 10 and 11 by October. It's
yeah.
easy to switch over from one to the other. The menus are all different, blah, 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 blah.
Yep. This is the
So let
problem
me,
with everybody. All the cloud services, they turn them off after a while and you have to migrate it. And so if say you use an app and then you come back years later, you're probably not going to be able to find your stuff.
yeah, yeah. I will tell you though, this came out in 2002 and is still probably one of the best programs ever,
Yeah.
my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, there's a fundamental problem here, just like OT, is that the lifetime of software is really short. And computers, they expect you to upgrade every year or two. And there's a whole lot of people that would rather upgrade like once every 30 years or maybe never.
Yeah, so Sam, I just looked up this. It was called the UWP, the Universal Windows Platform.
Well, I never heard of it.
You never heard of that?
No.
Okay.
But I remember Microsoft had a whole bunch of these they would throw against the wall and try to get developers to use like Silverlight instead of Flash. I think developers pretty much learned that you get burned if you jump on whatever Microsoft's pushing. They're just going to abandon it in a year. You'll waste all your time writing apps that you can't sell.
Yeah. So I think what happened is Microsoft decided to make this universal Windows platform,
Yeah.
and that was the default experience for Office users on Windows.
But what's the point? Because you could write an app for like Windows 2000 or Windows NT and it would still run fine on Windows 7, Windows 10, Windows 11. Their backward compatibility is so good. Windows is already universal as far as I can tell.
Here, let me go through this. The
Yeah.
Universal Windows Platform, this is
Yeah.
from Wikipedia, is a computing platform created by Microsoft, introduced in Windows 10. The purpose is to help develop universal apps that run on Windows 10, Windows 10 Mobile, which is now discontinued,
Oh,
Windows 11, Xbox One, Xbox Series XS, HoloLens. Is that still around?
okay.
Without the need to be rewritten for each platform.
Well, this sounds like Windows 8, their attempt to compete with Apple, where you have the portable device running the similar OS as the desktop device, which Microsoft never seemed to get working.
Yeah, yeah. So, and UWP does not target non-Windows, non-Microsoft systems.
Yeah, shooting themselves in the foot again. This reminds me
Yeah,
when Windows Phone came out, and my first thought is, well, it'll integrate with Active Directory. And they said, no. I said, why? That's a market you could get. You think you're going to beat the iPhone for home users? That's never going to work. But you could go after BlackBerry, and it could be your business phone, but that's not what they did. And they went broke, of course.
yeah. Now I remember this. You're right. And they did come up with something similar for
Yeah.
Windows 8,
Yeah.
8.1
That was
in
the
that
whole thing
era.
about Windows 8 is the same OS on your phone, your tablet, and your desktop, which is a terrible idea.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But they were trying to
Oh
compete
my
with Apple by
gosh.
imitating Apple incompetently. That's what Microsoft's business model is amazing. It's three flops and a hit, three flops and a hit, but the end result is they make a pile of money. You
They're
can do
still
that.
doing well.
And they still have a lot of flops, but as long as your hits are big enough, it works. Yeah. And it's like Ethernet. Ethernet is garbage. The packets collide, they get destroyed, and then you just try to fix the error, but the end result is you get the job done cheaper and faster. Just,
Well, you could have had Token Ring,
you
which
could.
was,
Made a
or
lot more money.
ArcNet.
Yeah, Token Ring was like Apple, high quality, no collisions, none of this nonsense, but it's more expensive and it's not the cheapest, fastest way to get the job done. Doing it sloppy and accepting a bunch of errors and patching them is the way to get the job done faster.
Yeah. So, Sam, do you know why Token Ring failed ultimately?
What I heard is the two problems are the NICs were too expensive and they didn't upgrade to high speed. At one time, they upgraded from like 4 megs to 16 megs, but Ethernet had just upgraded to 100 megs. So
Yeah.
it lost in the marketplace. Ethernet was cheaper and faster.
Yeah. And the cables initially for Token Ring were big fat, they were like big fat extension cords.
Yeah,
And they had this unique connector that was on the end that was like
yeah,
about like the size of a kid's block. It was about inch and a half by inch and a half cube.
yep, yep. Well,
But ultimately, what done them in was the cost. An Ethernet card was $99. Token Ring was 500.
that'll do it. You,
Yeah, and
you
you're right. Ethernet was 100 megabit at that time. Token ring was 4.
right. So I mean, if you're going to charge more, you have to offer more. You can't
Yeah,
charge
yeah,
more and offer less, or it won't work.
yeah,
This is not
yeah,
rocket science.
yeah.
Well, anyway, I got some politics. So
All right.
there's a group called Active Clubs, and these are basically Hitler Youth. They are fight clubs, and they're sprouting all over the world: Sweden, Canada, Australia, Switzerland, and the UK, and Latin America, with chapters in Chile and Colombia appearing. And they get together and fight and practice combat because they're getting ready to attack political enemies, immigrants, Jews, and LGBTQ plus people. They're basically Hitler Youth, Nazis. Uh, Farming little militias all over the place. So that's a that's a thing to know. Uh, and Golden Dome. You probably heard Trump talk about this. He wants to have a Golden Dome the way they have the Iron Dome over Israel. And when I first heard this, I said, this is just the same thing as Ronald Reagan's Star Wars. And that was all bullshit. But people say this is, in fact, not bullshit. They've assigned a general to it. He has 6 months to make a plan. They're taking it seriously. They say they're going to launch 1,000 satellites, and they're going to be small space-based interceptors launched 1 or 200 at a time on SpaceX rockets. And they think you can really do it now, a missile shield for the whole U.S. They said you just couldn't do it in the 80s. We didn't have the technology, but now we do. So I remain skeptical, but I guess we're going to find out. I'm not sure what's going to come of that. Similar,
So,
yeah, go ahead.
so is this a detection system or
Detection and shooting them down. It will detect missiles coming in and blast them. That's what Israel has.
and blast them with?
Well, I think another missile, maybe a laser, but I think it's just another missile. But apparently, this is the Israelis have it. It's their Iron Dome, and apparently, it's very effective. When people shoot a whole bunch of missiles at them, they mostly shoot them all down. But Israel's a really small country.
Right, right.
Doing this for the whole U.S. sounds insane, but they think they can do it with 1,000 satellites. And I guess they're going to have a whole bunch of missile emplacements all over the place to shoot counter missiles up. We're going to see. They've allocated a bunch of money for it. Maybe it's really going to happen. It sounds to me very impractical, but what do I know? Uh, Here's another good plan. You know, they're
Hmm.
arresting all these immigrants now everywhere, and they can't figure out where to send them. They made alligator Auschwitz in Florida, which is just a tent in a swamp that floods and has mosquitoes and is horrible. And they said we're going to make a whole bunch more of them. But in the meantime, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says he's going to use military bases to house detained immigrants. And he said this won't affect military readiness. Everything will be fine. We'll use military bases in Indiana and New Jersey to house the immigrants. So we'll see how that works out. Or building concentration camps. It really is pretty horrible. Anyway, in the same spirit, Oklahoma's school chief is a famous right-wing MAGA warrior, and they call him an attention-thirsty troll because he does stunts. He forced schools to purchase Trump-endorsed God Bless the USA Bibles. He bought Trump Bibles for all the schools. Then he ordered teachers to inform kids that the 2020 election was stolen in class, and now he has plans to force all teachers who move from blue states into his state to swear loyalty to a suite of MAGA beliefs outlined by PragerU, which you probably heard of. PragerU is like the schoolhouse rock for MAGA, full of like false theories, and so they will be tested on the U.S. Constitution, American exceptionalism, and the fundamental biological differences between boys and girls. So we'll see. These things keep getting struck down in the courts as like unconstitutional, but the current Supreme Court doesn't really seem to give a damn about the Constitution, so that might stop.
So, and where is this?
Oklahoma.
Oh, Oklahoma. Okay.
Yep, where you might expect it. Yeah. And I got a couple more of these, and that's it for the politics. Hey, you might know this. What is the most trusted EV brand in the world?
Hmm. Trusted.
The most
That's the
and
word.
the most and
Yeah.
least trusted. I've thought I've got here. Any ideas? You do EVs, you would know.
Yeah, but you're using the word trusted. That's where I'm stumbling.
Well,
So,
they ask them, you trust this company, you trust their quality, that sort of thing.
yeah. Who would you trust? Not sure. Not the American car companies. Rivian is probably up there. It's well liked, but I don't know. I don't know who they would trust.
Yeah, well,
Um,
I've got the answers. What about least
is
trusted? What would you think?
let me just ask this:
Yeah,
is it sold in America?
I imagine. Yeah.
Okay, so it's not a Chinese company.
No, Chinese companies I don't think are included.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is an American survey. So
Okay.
you can't get the
Okay.
Chinese cars. Otherwise, they would rate high, apparently.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know.
Okay.
Chevrolet.
No, the most trusted EV brand is Toyota, even though they're new to the field. But I think that's because
What?
people trust them for their other cars. And the least trusted brand is Tesla. They've fallen really fast.
So, Sam,
Yeah.
that makes no sense to me.
Yeah, well, I don't know either, but I know Tesla in America, their reputation's gone way down, their sales have gone way down, the Cybertruck did them a lot of harm. I think the quality of their brand has gone down quite a lot. Yeah, 26% still have a somewhat a very positive view of Tesla.
You,
Uh,
you know what I'd have to ask?
yeah.
Are these people who own EVs, or is this a political question?
Uh, the Electric Vehicle Intelligence Report surveys thousands of consumers to gauge attitudes on EV adoption. So I
Oh,
don't
EV
blame.
adoption.
Yep. Well, attitudes, autonomous driving and automakers. So they include it's a survey from the Electric Vehicle Intelligence Report. They don't make it clear who they survey or how they do. Anyway, I thought that was kind of fun. And
Yeah, because I would still argue that Tesla is making the best EV. It's got the best software
yep, yeah, you would think it
by
would be higher
far.
than, yeah. Anyway, I got one last political one, sort of psychology one. So conspiracy theorists, they said this is one of the biggest false consensus effects that's ever been observed. If you ask conspiracy theorists if they believe something, they will say, I know this truth which most people don't know. But if you ask them how many other people believe it, they will greatly overestimate how popular these ideas are. So, for example, in the Sandy Hook conspiracy, where adherents believe it was a false flag operation, 8% of people think it's true, but those 8% think that 61% of people agree with them. They say this is a huge effect. People that believe crazy things believe that a lot of other people agree with that. And this, I think, reminds me of Trump. He's always saying everybody knows the election was stolen. Everybody knows the government faked all these vaccine results. They say everybody knows it. I hear it all the time. Uh, that seems to be a really popular thing to think that ideas that are generally frowned upon. In fact, everybody knows it's different. It reminds me of a physics class study I saw before about 15 years ago. They had a question on a physics exam. They'd project this thing on the wall for a big classroom of students and say, I have a pulley with two pulleys and a rope with two buckets hanging on it. And the buckets have the same weight, but then I put one of them underwater. What's going to happen? And the students in answer, well, you're the one in the water. What you want me to say is the one in the water would raise up. And I know that's what you're going to call the right answer, but that's not what would really happen. And this, I think, is the way people take a lot of authoritative statements. They say, well, I know I'm supposed to say the election was fair, but everybody knows it was rigged. So they believe that people actually agree with them. They're just afraid to say so. Anyway,
Hmm.
a bit of interesting psychology, I think. Anyway, so what have you got?
Yeah, so interesting here. Okay. Here's one that's coming back. Sam, did you ever use a Commodore 64?
Oh, yeah, that was my favorite machine. I got the little book that came with it. I learned everything about that machine. It was awesome.
Yeah, did you know? And what happened to Commodore?
I
They
don't know. They had
they
the 64 and
eventually
they had
went
the
back.
PET. Yeah, I assume they've been gone for a long time.
Yeah, yeah. Somewhere in the 90s, they eventually, I believe, went bankrupt.
Yeah, but in like 1981, that thing was the cat's meow.
A little bit later, but yeah, right
Yeah.
around in that era.
Yeah.
and they came out with, I think, the Commodore 128,
They did. It was
a
not the,
flop.
I know, yeah, I didn't even get one. It was getting to be not the best choice anymore by that time.
Yeah, and they also came out with one or two portables, if I remember
They
correctly.
came out with the Amiga. Now that was pretty good.
Yeah, what happened to the Amiga?
Well, the Amiga was really hot in like 86 or 87,
Right.
but they didn't, I guess it wasn't popular enough. They didn't have later versions. So after a while, PCs overtook them and the Apples and stuff. But for a while, Amigas were really powerful for their time.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, Commodore 64 is back,
I saw
and you
that.
can
Yeah.
buy a brand new Commodore 64 2025 version for about $100 more than the original cost.
Yeah, but the fact is, I mean, it can't compete with a modern machine unless it's totally better on the inside. I mean, it had low
No, it's
low
the
quality.
original.
It had
It's
these low quality graphics on a TV screen. You could only see like 20 characters across. It was like blurry. It was it was better than the computers at that time, but it's nothing compared to a modern machine.
Sam, this is nostalgia. It's like Polaroid cameras that
Yeah. Yeah.
have come back.
I don't
Who
think very
uses
many
them?
I don't think very many people are going to want the Commodore 64 experience.
Well, you can get the clear case edition, which did
Yeah.
not exist back then, where you could look through the transparent and see inside.
Yeah, you could probably get an abacus too.
Yeah, yeah. People still buy abacuses, right?
Yep. Yeah.
All right. So the
Yeah.
Commodore 64, if you missed it the first time around, you can buy one now. And it's only about a third more than it was originally. I remember them being about $199. Or no, that was the VIC
That was the
20.
VIC 20. The Commodore was like 600. The 64 was like 600. It was the big upgrade.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. My
Yeah.
mistake. My
I
mistake.
remember the VIC 20. Yeah, yeah, anyway, I those things were great at the time, but you wouldn't want them now.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Anyway, so I was very interested to find this. Paul Asadorian was saying, "Oh, I installed the Windows 11 machine, and I know when I do it, I boot from Windows 11, I go through the menu, choosing the language and all that jazz, but that is not the way to do it. There's a website that generates the unattend file to do an unattended installation at schneegens.de, and this thing is awesome. It's got so many options. You can bypass the disk encryption, disable Defender, disable updates, turn off the TPM requirements. You can turn off and remove all the Windows features you're not using. It is really amazing. And of course, once you're done, you can automatically install those machines like crazy. So I was very interested. I'm probably going to have to like add this to my classes. This is so much more powerful and useful than going through the manual installation process that forces you to do irritating things you don't really want to do, like make a Microsoft Cloud account and stuff.
So this is just an answer file, right?
It's just creating the unattended file. I did not realize all these interesting features are in the unattended file, like skip the TPM requirement, so you can put it on your Windows 10 hardware. I thought Microsoft kept turning that off, but apparently by me using the unattended file, you can get back all that stuff to work. So
Okay.
that seems good.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, and here's a charming fact. There's a flaw. There's a company called Mateo Control that makes controllers used by power plants, used by solar electrovoltaic photovoltaic systems. And they've had a flaw for 10 years where all you have to do is go to a page on their website and the administrator password is right there. So now you can log in as the administrator and you can then turn off the power or anything else. And it's been that way for 10 years and they haven't fixed it. And these things are in installed infrastructure. Now, as far as I can tell, they're not in the power grid in California, but they appear to be overseas. It's a German company, I think. But this is like I was saying, this is the fundamental problem with operational technology. Industrial equipment is expected to keep running for like 30 or 50 years. And of course, security thinks you should update your stuff every year or two. So you install this stuff up to whatever were the standards at that time. And after a few years, everybody knows how to hack it. But anyway, they clearly need to update this stuff. Or, like I say, put it behind a VPN concentrator. Anyway,
Yeah, yeah.
they call the articles called the Internet Red Button. You can just turn off the power plant, which is rude. Uh,
It is. It
yeah,
is.
yeah. And
All right.
I guess I got one more of these I'll mention now, which is you remember Microsoft Recall, right? It was going to keep track of everything you do and put it in a database, and everybody freaked out. They brought it back. It's called Copilot Vision on Windows 11. It's in an update. It appears by default. Supposedly you have to turn it on, but it's there. And not only does it capture constant screenshots, it feeds them to optical character recognition and a large language model, but it doesn't work locally like Recall. It sends the data off to Microsoft servers. So this seems even worse. So, I mean, all and like Kevin Beaumont talked about this on, he said, obviously all your corporate PCs have to turn this off. It's sending your data to some other server. That violates all your compliance regulations and everything.
Sam, it's an enhancement.
What Microsoft said,
New,
I remember,
new and improved.
well, I remember, I think around Windows 7, people started turning on Wireshark and finding out, wait a minute, it's sending all my URLs to Microsoft. And they said, yes, that's our phishing blocking. Every URL, before it opens it in Internet Explorer, it sends it to the cloud to verify that it's safe. So it's protecting you. And you could say that. You could also say it's spying on you. But just capturing screenshots of everything you do, that's insane. But there's a solution, by the way. Brave has updated Brave so Brave screens will not get screenshotted. There is Microsoft provides something called set input scope in the API, and you can set the input scope to is private, and then it won't snoop on you. That'll turn out recall snooping on it. Now, whether it also applies to the new thing, Copilot Vision, I don't know, but I hope so. So your software can update to where Microsoft will supposedly not snoop on it this way. And once again, the question is, why are they doing this? And I guess the answer is they think there's going to be like a AI assistant that has to know everything about you. And you're going to
Yeah,
love that so much that you won't mind this thing sending all your data to Microsoft. Anyway, recall will never die. Microsoft just keeps bringing it back with another name.
yeah, got it, got it.
Well, you don't have to throw AI in everything.
Yeah, everything's in AI.
Yep.
So,
And
Sam, I got one story that I kind of picked up that kind of surprised me. Have you ever been on a cruise ship?
yeah, but not the big ones with like 5,000 people.
Yeah, okay. How big? I never have.
I went on a couple little ones, which actually were not that luxurious. I went on the Hurtigruten, which is in fact sort of like the ferry they use in Norway to go from place to place. And so that was really pretty nice, but it's not, it's apparently those big ones are like floating restaurants and hotels.
They're floating cities.
Yeah, yeah. This was nice, but it was mostly just because you like looking at the scenery and taking trips on land and visiting stuff. Just an easy
So,
travel from place to place.
did you have a cabin?
Yeah, we had a cabin and they had a
Oh, I
restaurant
see.
and it was kind of like Looney Tunes. In Looney Tunes, you'd have like the same characters play different roles like actors.
Yeah,
People would be like cleaning your room, then they would put on fancy clothes and serve in the restaurant. Then they'd be working downstairs like hauling trucks in. You'd see them very different costumes for their different roles. It was kind of funny. And what they were was like students would take it for a summer job, like grad students. They would
yeah.
serve on the Hurtigruten, and everybody rides it everywhere because Norway is just a bunch of islands. There aren't any roads, so the only way to get anywhere is to take the ferry. So the ferry is like a barge. It stops at every island, like 10 islands, in the course of a week. There's a bunch of them going, like a week up and a week back. And so you visit all these spots in Norway. They're all incredibly beautiful and scenic. Lots of glaciers and
Interesting.
fjords. And it's very cool. And people said this isn't very luxurious compared to other cruises, but it was good enough.
So it's kind of like the budget, the Motel 6 or
It kind of was. I mean,
M.
it wasn't all that cheap, but the point is it's for people who really are more interested in, they also had like scientific lectures, like twice a day, telling you all about the economics and the northern lights and the stratosphere and the Russian scientific experiments and stuff. It was very interesting.
So no casinos.
No, no casinos. You know,
No all you can drink bars.
there was a restaurant and I didn't pay attention. I guess there was booze. Yeah, there
No,
wasn't.
no, but no all you can drink
No,
bars.
I've heard this. Like people go there to like pick up dates and stuff.
Yeah, no swimming pools, no
No, none of that. Yeah,
slides.
yeah, no, not all that luxurious. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Well, this is an interesting fact that I just kind of surprised the heck out of
no.
me. How many people do you think disappear from cruise ships every year?
Oh, that's a good question. I know a lot of them are like old and sick, so I would imagine some of them die, and I would imagine some of them fall over and stuff.
No, 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 no. How many people disappear?
Well, I wonder how many people are like fleeing bad debts or something, and they use a cruise ship as a way to get out of the country. I don't know. I never thought about it. It seems like you could do that, though.
Well,
You could book a cruise and just get off and leave, and it would be a way to get out of the country if you're a criminal or something.
yeah, but you have to present your passport when you get on a cruise ship, don't you?
Yeah, yeah, I suppose. I think you do, yeah.
Yeah.
You
So
have
I
to get a
mean,
fake passport or something. They probably don't really check it very much.
yeah, but I'm talking about people, what would
Oh,
be considered normal people.
boy, I don't know. I wouldn't think it'd be that common. Are there serial killers on cruises or something? I don't know.
Well, the number that I was told was 200.
Well, I have heard there's a lot of serial killers that are long distance truckers that kill people in state after state and get to do it, a lot of them before they get caught. And I guess if you did it on a cruise ship, you could totally get away with it for a while.
Well, you're in international waters, so
Yeah.
there's no,
And there's
there's
all these temporary passengers that you'll never see again. And if one of them vanished, nobody will probably notice for a while. And I guess it could happen. I guess you could rob them and throw them overboard.
yeah, but you've got family members there. And
Yeah.
so, anyway, I guess, Netflix has a video
Yeah.
about one of these, a woman that disappeared.
Well, I
And
did not see any police anywhere. Nobody.
what you're, yeah, I mean, once you're 7 miles out, you're in international waters,
Yeah.
and whose laws apply?
I, well, we were near the coast, but I did not see any evidence of security or cops or anything anywhere. It didn't seem like there was a problem. But I guess if you did start attacking people, there wouldn't be that much of anybody to stop you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But you're
So,
right. I mean, it's like rural areas. Um, you're out in the country, you could do a bad thing and nobody would catch you for a while.
well, but here you're in international waters.
Right.
Whose laws apply?
I guess there's something called international law. I really don't know much about it. And there's something called maritime law, and I don't really understand that either. I know
Yeah,
when pirates like attack ships, there are people that fight them off with their own guns and stuff, and uh, I think it's pretty complicated.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it happens. Anyway,
Um,
yeah,
so this is interesting.
yeah.
Um, I'm getting kind of that number seemed awful high, and I'm doing a fact check here.
Well, there are a
And
lot
it
of people that go
says,
on cruises, but
yeah, so I'm getting another fact here.
yeah.
Maybe this story got it mixed up, but it says approximately 19 people go missing from cruise ships,
Well,
and
that's
it's
much more
either
believable. Yeah,
falling overboard,
right.
but this is according to industry data.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't think that many would just simply vanish because you're right. Somebody would get mad, like the family or something. Hey,
Well, yeah, and that's what's happened.
yeah,
And if you go to the cruise ship security, they have an issue where if it was a murder and somebody gets thrown overboard, but it's kind of like an airline, right? You can't really stop to investigate. People got to get off and go where they're going.
I guess.
And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it gets so
Well,
anyway,
that's
there's
what
a
I would believe that a few people get drunk and fall off. That would be quite believable.
yeah, yeah, that I would understand too.
Yeah.
But here's another one. Approximately 200 people are estimated to go missing from cruise ships every year. So we're getting anywhere from 19 per year to 200 per year.
Well, like so many things like this, they're estimates and things are getting covered up, and you have to carefully define it. Like I would think some people are just fleeing and skip.
Yeah. So the reason this is in the news is Netflix has a video that's called The Show Amy Bradley is Missing, which is on Netflix.
Oh, okay.
And it's exploring the disappearance of a woman on a Caribbean cruise in
Yeah.
1998. So this
Yeah.
is, decades old.
Yeah.
But I will add, remember, was it Nancy Holloway? She was on High School Student, went to Aruba, and she disappeared. So, you're not exactly in America.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, people disappear in America too. I should
Yeah.
I should say
Yeah. But
that. Yeah.
especially tourists, people that travel are at high risk for being preyed upon and disappear. You're far from home. Uh, People can pretty much get away with it. So, I mean, travel is a risky thing to that regard.
Yeah, yeah. So, with her, what I heard, there are a lot of rumors. It's kind of difficult, I think, on cruise ships to fall overboard. I
Yeah.
think they've made the railings much higher than they
Yeah.
used to be. Yeah,
Yeah.
that I'm not sure of.
But I mean, there's idiots that do things like climb in with the tigers at the zoo and stuff.
Yeah,
If you're
yeah, yeah,
determined, like you're trying to get a selfie, like in that movie Titanic, I want to get a selfie of me leaning over the ocean, almost falling in.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
There's probably idiots doing that.
yeah. And, so was this a falling overboard or was she kidnapped or,
Yeah.
commit suicide? We'll never know.
Yeah. Well, I got a couple more of these that are good.
Okay.
You'll probably like this one. I did not know this. A bunch of people use VMware vSphere and they integrate it with Active Directory, which would make sense, I guess. So your cloud machines can be using your Active Directory accounts. The problem is ransomware people attack it that way. They say ransomware has grown. Ransomware specifically tailored for vSphere ESX systems has grown from 2% to over 10%. So that, and there are vulnerabilities that keep flying by in like ESX vSphere. So it becomes part of your attack surface now. And the last one really caught my attention. Preston Thorpe is a software engineer at a San Francisco startup. He's also serving his 11th year in prison. And there's a community college professor teaching classes from prison. Apparently, this is in Maine. This is their work, um, in prison work study program. You can get a remote job and do it from in your prison cell, like the prison computer lab or something. So I was thinking this is the way community colleges can balance their budget. They can hire convicts to teach the classes. They'll probably be cheaper. They probably won't quit. I can think like colleges that teach remotely might find this is a way to balance their budget. Anyway,
Yeah, there you go.
yeah, I remember when two junior teachers were coming to be interviewed at City College and they were waiting on a room outside. They said while they were out there, they were discussing how practical it would be to get like a van and live on the street in a van like other people. I said, there's a problem with our job when this is such a common issue for us to talk about because nobody can afford the damn rent in San Francisco. I was thinking this would do it too. Just go to prison. You won't have to pay the rent. You can
Yeah,
work remotely. This could be a great money making technique.
yeah. Sam,
Anyway,
I got a follow up. We talked about the kiss cam at the Coldplay concert.
oh yeah.
Okay, and this has gone viral.
Oh yeah.
It's
It's
just it's
everywhere.
destroyed. Yeah,
And
but
both of
here's,
both of them got fired, I think.
did they both get fired?
I think the CEO got fired, and like today, the other woman got fired too, or quit.
Yeah, I think the CEO quit. And anyway,
Well, I think they're saying they quit, which means, they said, all right, how about you quit so we don't have
yeah,
to
yeah,
pay
yeah,
you?
yeah. Okay, okay. That's not where I'm going. It's unfortunate that, this happened, however you want to say this, but whatever. The
Yeah.
real news story is, so that went viral, and the women that posted it got, I don't know, 50 million views worldwide,
Yeah.
or probably up in the billions now. But but this is what I think is funny. Now you've got people that are trying to cash in on it, and it's psychologists are saying, body image experts are saying, in other words, there are all these different people that are analyzing the videos who are experts or claim to be experts in other fields. And so they're trying to cash in on the same videos with their twist to it.
What are they doing? Trying to analyze the psychology of these people from the five
Well, they're
second
trying
video
to,
clip?
yeah, yeah. I'm a psychologist. I'm going to get the clicks because I'm going to make another video analyzing what they were doing, analyzing their body image,
Yeah.
analyzing what their relationships at home were. I'm going to use a Ouija board to see
Yeah.
or to predict what's going to happen to them in the future. So
Yeah.
my point is everybody's coming out of the woodwork
Sure.
to try and make a video and capture the clicks
Yeah.
based on whatever expertise they claim to have.
Yeah. Well, that certainly happens.
Right, right,
There's
right.
like when I watch YouTube, there's tons of videos that are just recycling content from other videos. That's a real popular thing to do. And
Yeah, but
yeah,
these are experts. A
yeah.
doctor in the field recommends that maybe he's mentally ill.
Well, I remember, I think when Trump's first term and also Biden's term, there were a bunch of these people taking one of their videos, one of their speeches, and saying, you can tell he's lying on this because his eyes go to the left.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you can tell he has this mental disorder from the way he talks and stuff like that. And that makes sense. There's probably even some truth in it, but you can't verify any of this.
right, 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 right.
That's
Anyway,
one of the science fiction staples is that one day we'll have a lie detector that actually works, and you can like play it on a political speech or something and see when they're lying. That would be awesome, but it doesn't exist. It's like the fountain of youth.
well, they exist, but they're not accurate.
Right, right.
Yeah, yeah,
Like we don't even have
yeah,
polygraphs that work. Again, it would be awesome if we could, and presumably at some point with like electrodes and brain scanning, we could actually make a lie detector that works, but we don't really have a good one yet.
yeah. That's interesting. There is an FBI agent of 30 years who wrote a book on how to fake out, in other words, a lie detector
Yeah,
test.
yeah.
And
There's
he
also
claimed,
one I saw a lot was micro expressions, where you have brief
yeah,
expressions showing what you really think and things like that. That's one that was popular a few years back. I don't know if there's any truth to any of this stuff.
yeah, I don't know if there's any. Well, there is truth to it because you can do it. And he claims within 2 hours, he can train a CIA agent, FBI agent, police officer how to fake a lie detector test.
Yeah, I've seen that in cop shows. I don't know if it's
Yeah,
true, but I imagine it's true.
no, it's
I think
true.
I
It's
think
true.
that's why they don't even allow it in court. Fundamentally,
Right.
things are not very accurate. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Well, that's it for
All
me.
right, that's it for me too, Sam.
All right.
See, we're almost into October, or sorry, August, aren't
Yep,
we?
yep, yep. So we'll do another one of these on Tuesday.
Yep, we'll see you on the 29th.
All right.